Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to wrestle with all the information coming at you, try and boil it down to what really counts. And when it comes to, well, how to live well, the advice out there is just endless, isn't it? But people still struggle. It always reminds me of the writer, Garrison Keillor, his slightly gloomy but kind of perfect summary. Life is a struggle, and if you feel truly happy, wait, it passes. So, okay, if chasing happiness directly doesn't really work long term, and maybe self help leaves you a bit cold after a while, what does work? What gives life a solid foundation? That's what we're diving into today. We're looking at sources that cleverly combine really old wisdom philosophy, basically, with modern tools like from psychotherapy. We're focusing on thinkers like Julian Baggini and Antonia Macaro, and the goal here is to pull out the most useful stuff, the aim, to help you develop what the Greeks called phronesis. Practical wisdom. It's like a skill, something you can actually train for thinking for yourself and hopefully making better choices in life.
Yeah, and what's really refreshing about these sources right from the start is their honesty, their humility even. They completely reject the idea that wisdom is just about how much you know, that it just scales with knowledge. I mean, you can be incredibly smart, know loads of facts, but still be pretty foolish when it comes to living well. Sometimes someone with just a few good tools does much better. So they're not selling a magic bullet. There's no secret formula here. They basically say, look, here's a well-stocked tool shed. Ideas gathered over thousands of years, tested, refined, updated with psychology. And the invitation is for you, the listener, to come in, look around, see what fits, and, use what works for your specific situation.
I really like that tool shed idea. It suggests you actually have to do something, not just wait for magic. Okay, let's grab that first tool then. And where else to start but, 2,000 years ago? Aristotle.
Mm-hmm.
He had this amazing knack for going from super abstract logic right down to the nitty-gritty of human life. Why is he still so central for this kind of quest?
Well, because his big concept for Nisa's practical wisdom, it's just so grounded in reality. It's not theoretical fluff. It's not just about finding the right answer like in a textbook problem. It's about building the ability, the capacity to see the best path consistently. And that this is key actually doing it. Taking the right action, but doing it gracefully and easily.
Ideally, you get to a point where you're acting well without this huge internal battle against your own bad habits or, temptations.
That gracefully and easily part. It sounds very modern, actually. Is it a bit like what psychologists now call expert intuition?
Yeah, there's definitely a parallel.
Like a master chef who just knows what the dish needs, or that mechanic you mentioned before. They don't consciously think through every single step. The right move just sort of pops out.
Exactly. It's a good comparison. But Aristotle was aiming broader, more moral. Expert intuition for a chess master works for chess. Phronesis is about intuition for living well.
And yeah, his genius was offering ways to actually train that intuition. Which brings us right to his most practical tool, the doctrine of the mean.
The mean. Okay, when people hear that, I think they often just think moderation. Don't do too much of anything.
Right, common misconception.
But is it just that? How does his idea actually help us figure out where that mean is when things are messy and complex?
It's definitely more sophisticated than just don't go overboard. The doctrine of the mean says virtue lies in a specific place between two extremes, two vices. So courage, his classic example, is the mean. It sits between recklessness on one side and cowardice on the other.
Okay.
But here's the crucial bit where people often get it wrong. The mean isn't some fixed mathematical average. It's not just splitting the difference. You absolutely have to adjust it based on the specific situation and, really importantly, based on your own temperament, your capabilities. Think about it like this. They use the analogy of ideal weight for someone who's, say, 1 meter 80 tall. You can't just say it's 75 kilos, full stop. A professional dancer needs a different mean weight than a heavyweight bodybuilder. Even if they're the same height, they have different roles, different needs.
That makes sense.
You have to find the balance point that works for you in your life doing what you do. It's not a general rule.
That customization point is huge, I think. And it leads us perfectly into the modern world, doesn't it? Because we're constantly bombarded with this, well, frankly, toxic idea of perfection. Be the best version of yourself in absolutely everything.
Exactly. And chasing that kind of generalized, impossible maximum in every area, it just leads to paralysis. It's counterproductive. Modern therapy, like rational emotive behavioral therapy, REBT, from Albert Ellis, hits this nail right on the head. Ellis basically said the belief that you must be 100% successful or perfectly competent at everything to be a worthwhile person is,
Well, it's irrational.
because it sets you up for failure.
Precisely. You set this impossible bar, you're guaranteed to fall short, and what happens? Chronic anxiety, which ironically makes it even harder to achieve anything meaningful. So it's a paradox. We should aim high, but somehow be okay with not quite hitting the mark.
It feels like one, yeah. And that's where, funnily enough, we can loop right back to the ancients again. Specifically the Stoics.
Okay.
They have this brilliant metaphor, the archer.
Ah, yes, I know this one.
Your real control, the only thing you truly own, is the effort you put into the shot. Your focus, the training, how carefully you aim, releasing the arrow. It's on you. But the actual result, whether the arrow hits the bullseye or a sudden gust of wind blows it off course, that's ultimately outside your complete control. So your sense of worth, your satisfaction, should come from the input, the quality of your effort, not necessarily the output, the final result.
That's a really powerful shift in perspective, but let me push back a little just for the modern world.
Sure.
What if your job demands that perfect outcome? Like if you're a surgeon or you're building a bridge, the finish is kind of the whole point, isn't it? Does stoicism help there?
It does, I think. It's not saying the outcome doesn't matter at all. It's about where you place your emotional energy and self-worth. It helps you deal with the inevitable times when things don't go perfectly, despite your best efforts, without falling apart. It shifts focus back to continuous learning, improving the process. And part of that is accepting reality, which includes our own limited capacity. This is a big one.
Limited capacity, meaning we just can't do it all.
Exactly. If you pour absolutely everything into becoming, say, a top CEO, maybe working 80-hour weeks, the success almost requires a trade-off somewhere else. You probably won't also be the world's most present parent or the friend who's always available or have tons of hobbies.
Right.
And those trade-offs, those losses in other areas, they aren't necessarily moral failures. They're just, well, the reality of being human. Limited time, limited energy.
Which then brings us to that fantastic synthesis from the Japanese psychiatrist Shoma Morita.
Yes.
If we accept the Stoic idea about controlling effort, not outcomes, and we accept we just can't do everything perfectly,
Right.
then the goal becomes, what was it?
Be the best imperfect person you can be.
Right, that's it.
It's such a powerful reframe, isn't it? Because it honors both things. That natural drive we have to get better, to improve, while also accepting that imperfection is just part of the deal. It's inevitable. It lets you stop beating yourself up and actually get on with things.
Okay, so reframing success. That leads us nicely into our final section. And maybe the most common goal people talk about today, happiness.
Ah, happiness. The big one.
Our sources seem pretty suspicious of chasing happiness directly. They call it vague, like a pink fantasy. And they say trying too hard to grab it actually makes it disappear.
And there's a lot of psychological research that backs that feeling up, you know?
Like Dan Gilbert's work.
Exactly. Dan Gilbert's research found that big life events, good stuff like winning the lottery or really bad stuff like a major injury, they actually have surprisingly small and temporary effects on our overall happiness levels.
Really? Temporary.
Yeah. We tend to return to our sort of emotional baseline pretty quickly. So chasing lasting joy just through external events, it seems mostly pointless.
That's kind of sobering. So if we're not supposed to be chasing momentary joy, what are we aiming for? It makes me think of that story about the philosopher Wittgenstein, Ludwig Wittgenstein.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, when he was dying, seriously ill, he didn't seem scared or sad. He just said, good. And his very last words were supposedly, tell them I've had a wonderful life.
Wow. Wonderful. Not happy.
Exactly. He didn't claim a happy life, apparently. His life was full of intense intellectual struggle, maybe some turmoil, but wonderful. It suggests he found something deeper, right? Like a purity of purpose that went beyond just feeling good.
That purity of purpose, that takes us straight back, again, to Aristotle.
Yeah.
And his idea of the ultimate goal being eudaimonia.
Eudaimonia, okay.
Yeah. We usually translate it as flourishing or maybe living well. And the key thing is, it's not about chasing pleasant feelings or pleasure. It's about living according to our nature as rational beings, using reason, like using that practical wisdom, for instance, we talked about, to make choices that give life meaning. deep,
Ah.
intrinsic meaning, even if those choices are hard or not particularly fun at the time.
So the moment you choose eudaimonia, flourishing, over just fleeting happiness, the whole game changes.
Completely.
It's less about feeling good and more about being good in a broad sense.
Yeah.
And sticking to that intrinsic value seems crucial because there's a real risk, isn't there, when psychology or self-help tries to measure everything, tries to turn intrinsic value into just instrumental value.
Oh, definitely. That example the sources give about Gretchen Rubin is quite striking, I thought.
The hugging thing.
Yeah. She wrote about deciding consciously to hug her husband for at least 6 seconds.
Why 6 seconds specifically?
Because apparently she'd read research suggesting that 6 seconds was the minimum time needed to trigger the release of oxytocin and serotonin, the happiness hormones.
Huh.
But think about what that does.
Yeah, it feels clinical.
Right. A spontaneous, genuine expression of affection gets reduced to a technique, a tool purely to get a desired chemical result.
You're not hugging because you feel love. You're hugging to get your oxytocin hit.
Exactly. The moment you start calculating actions based on their biochemical payoff, you kind of strip them of their human meaning, don't you?
It feels like the opposite of practical wisdom, like swapping wisdom for a user manual.
It really does. Phronesis is about choosing rightly, because it aligns with your deeper purpose. This quantification stuff is about choosing efficiently to optimize how you feel. Very different things.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. To bring our deep dive to a close, what are the main tools we've pulled out of that tool shed?
Well, I think the core message is that these sources offer pathways to practical wisdom phronesis, and that wisdom isn't aimed at just happiness, but at a richer goal, flourishing, or eudaimonia. And the way to get there involves aiming high, embracing that desire to grow, but crucially, accepting imperfection as part of the journey, not fighting it constantly.
Aim high, accept imperfection.
Got it. And if you can start integrating those tools, there's maybe one final challenge for you, the listener, to think about. It's about how you define success itself.
Okay.
The most meaningful goals, the ones that sustain eudaimonia, tend to focus on what you want to do and who you want to become, not just on a list of things you want to finish.
Oh, that's interesting. Doing and being versus finishing. Can you give an example?
Think about tennis player Tim Henman. Amazing career, right? Won 15 pro titles, world number 4.
Yeah, great player.
But how is he often remembered, especially in the media? For the failure to win a Grand Slam. That one specific finish line he didn't cross sometimes overshadows years of consistent high performance.
That's true. The finish defines him. Unfairly, perhaps.
Or contrast that with, say, Nick Vermeulen. He holds a Guinness World Record for collecting airline sick bags.
Okay. Random.
Totally random. He collected 5,568 of them. He finished his goal. It's complete, definitive. But, well, once it's done, is it deeply meaningful? Probably not for most people. It's superficial.
Right. It's a completed task, but maybe not a fulfilling life pursuit.
Exactly. So the challenge for you is to look at your own goals. Are they primarily about becoming the kind of person you admire, like, I want to be a really good cook, or I want to be someone who genuinely helps others? These are ongoing states of being. Or are they mostly about checking off external finishes, get the promotion, buy the house, run the marathon? Because those finish lines, once you cross them, can sometimes feel surprisingly empty.
That's a fantastic final thought. Focus on the becoming, not just the finishing. Until next time, keep digging deep and keep focusing on that process of becoming.